the hell is he? On the third.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Founders Conversation, March edition, which is on smart financial strategies. My name is Kathy Karaoke, coordinator with Founders Profit Academy, FPA, a community within Small Founders Association. At FPA, we help business owners grow, scale, and thrive through our specialized coaching framework. In my role, I support our licensed training coaching programs where we provide the tools and support entrepreneurs to reach their full potential. Today, we are excited to dive into a critical topic for SMEs: budgeting basics, building a financial plan for success. Previously, during our physical founders hangout on Thursday, the 6th of March, which was graced by Mr. Joel Coril, Head of Retail and Investments at Old Mutual Investments Group. We had Martin Mawero, one of our SFA partner and managing partner of Nitram Advisory, and Patricia Mboro from ABSA, who is the SME Cluster Manager. So our conversation on that particular day centered on smart accounting, smart credit, and smart investing. When it came to smart accounting, our speaker, Martin Mawero, gave us two takeaways. One was on building a financially strong business and knowing that smart accounting is not just about compliance, but about making data-driven decisions that drive profitability. He also emphasized that as a small business, the first ledger can be your bank account or the mobile statements. When we came to smart credit from our speaker, Patricia Mboro, one of our takeaways was credit is a tool and not a trap. When used strategically, it fuels growth and expansion. She also reminded business owners that responsible lending and management of the life cycle of a loan are key in having a positive relationship with your bank. And also remember that having a borrowing history helps in developing the credit worthiness of your business. When it came to smart investing, our speaker, Joel Coril, emphasized that investing is about growing wealth wisely. Diversify, mitigate risks, and stay informed. He also shared the need to know the various asset classes in order of liquidity and understanding alternative investments that can be used to extend the life of the entrepreneur and the business. So today we go to part two, as I've said, which is on budgeting basics, building a financial plan for success. So I'm thrilled to introduce to you our speaker today is Eva Kiduku. So Eva Kiduku is a credit expert and trainer with over 20 years of experience in credit and financial planning. Her mantra is to simplify the loan process, guiding you every step of the way to achieve your financial goals and unlock new opportunities through accessing affordable credit. Her experience includes working in various local banks in the positions of credit manager, head of SME, and quality assurance manager. Her tasks included lending to retail, SMEs, and corporates. In addition, Eva has experience in the fintech and portfolio management sector, lending to businesses and managing pension funds across Africa. Eva's educational background includes an MBA from finance from Northwood University in the US and a bachelor's degree from Kenyatta University here in Kenya. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Eva Kithuku as she guides us through today's conversation. Karibu sana, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you so much for that lovely introduction and even for the recap from last week. I look forward to our conversation today.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, we'll start with the basics before we build up.
Yes.
So, let's go through some foundational principles.
Yeah.
Probably you can mention one or two fundamental principles of creating a successful financial plan for
Yes.
small businesses.
Yeah.
And then you can also probably mention one or two financial goals, giving us the examples, of course,
Mm-hmm.
before creating a budget for the small
Yeah.
business.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again, Kathy. And I will start simply by just saying, what is a financial plan? In fact, what is a budget? Most people, especially small businesses, who is our focus today, when you hear the word budget, we have this illusion of something so big and something elaborate and something that has to be done by professionals. But what is a budget? A budget is simply knowing your income and then allocating it to cover your expenses, your savings, and any plans you may have in the future. So it's as simple as that. For a business, sometimes you may have to estimate the income because it's the income that you will make as you go along. But a budget becomes easier for individuals who already know what their income is. So for a business, before a business sits down and decides to make a plan, which, by the way, let me start by saying, very, very important for a business to have a financial plan. Because, without a financial plan, then where are you going? What are you trying to achieve? You know the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So this is very essential. So the first thing for any small business, first you have to understand your business. Understand where you are now, where you want to go in the next 1 week, in the next 1 month, and eventually in the next 5 years. So that's why we say you identify your short term goals and your long term goals. Your short term goals are as simple as being able to pay your employees at the end of the month, being able to pay your rent at the end of the month, depending on the kind of business you are in, being able, let's say you're in a restaurant business, it's knowing where you will buy eggs for tomorrow, how you will buy them. So, as I said, first you establish your short term and long term goal. The next thing, then you have to know what income you'll be working with, because remember you're budgeting for the future. So you can choose to have a plan for 1 month, another one for 2 months, or you can have a long-term budget. So we'll start with a short-term budget, the one you're planning for a month. So then you identify your income. How much do I expect to make this month? For a business, the best way to go about this is use your past history. Look at your previous records and see, in this month, previous month, I made this amount of money. So it's likely I'm going to make the same. So you can budget with that. Of course, it's also important to pay attention to what is happening around you. Some businesses are affected seasonally. So if you're in a business where it is a great month, that's coming, for instance, those people who are in any business that supports tourism, December is a good month. Then in that kind of month, you anticipate more income. So once you anticipate your income, then the next thing, you have to now write down your expenses. And in these expenses, you're going to have the expenses that cannot change, that will remain the same. And this is your rent, your salaries, your licensing. If, for instance, you pay monthly licenses, uh, maybe your internet, maybe you do pay someone to do for you digital advertisement, those kinds of expenses. So you list those ones. Then now you move to the variable expenses. And variable expenses, these are the ones, that about, for instance, buying the stock, how you anticipate that to go. For other things you need to run the business, your power, your transport, for instance, in case you need to transport some things, and then you list those down. Then once you list those down, then now you, at this point, and every business should think of money you need to put aside, either as a saving or for a future long-term goal. For instance, growth. Maybe you intend to open another restaurant in another town. Maybe you intend to buy an equipment that you use in your business. Then you put aside some money for that. Now, once you have those things, then you always, especially in business, must put money aside for an emergency. Emergencies happen all the time, especially in business. So you can't now, when an emergency happens, you can't say, oh, I did not put money aside for that. No, we anticipate emergencies and we put money aside for that. So once we have our plan, because now we have our plan, we have said for our expenses, we've put money aside for our expenses, for our savings, and for our investment. Then now you have to monitor that budget. Because if you don't monitor it, then how will you know if you're keeping to it? How will you know if you've gone beyond what you planned for? And monitoring is important because then we are able to make adjustments along the way. It's not to say we cannot make adjustments just because we planned. You can see the month, probably your sales are not going as you had planned, which then means you need to cut down your supplies, you need to cut down your stock, you need to reduce some things. And then that way, you do not end up buying all this stock and then now you can't sell it, then you're stuck with no money to pay rent and salaries at the end of the month. I hope that explains, the simplicity of financial planning for a small business because it doesn't have to be complex.
It does. I think as we are going ahead, I think in the next sessions, that aspect you have mentioned for emergency funds, because most small businesses, our emergency funds are more for you as an individual, but not so much for the business. So I just want to make a note and hopefully you'll expand further as we go along with the conversation.
Okay.
You have mentioned something as regards the income. So how should small businesses account for irregular or seasonal income in their budget, and what strategies can they use to either to diversify or to increase their income streams? I know you touched about it briefly when you talked about like the ones who are in the tourism industry.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and I think
Thank you.
you'll probably use that example as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for that. Yes, you mentioned two very different incomes, irregular income and seasonal income. How you treat those is very different. I will start with seasonal income. Seasonal income, as you have brought out, is those businesses that are seasonal, in certain months of the year. They make a lot of money, they make a lot of sales, and then in certain months, they make very little or almost nothing. And a good example is tourism. I think in our country, for instance, those who are targeting local tourism, I think we have months that are peak months, and I believe it is April because of Easter, August because of school holidays, and of course, December. So for such businesses, when you're planning, you need to put that in mind because there's a chance in the months of January, February, March, you may not make as much. In fact, it may not even be enough to meet your regular expenses that way to meet. So how do you plan for that? On those months that you anticipate a lot of sales and a lot of income, plan ahead. Those, remember, I talked of the non-variable expenses that will not change. For instance, your rent remains the same, your things like internet remains the same, your salaries remain the same, you probably pay subscription to certain bodies, that remains the same. So plan to pay for those in advance, and you do that during that month when you have seasonal income. So in the month of December, you can perhaps pay your rent quarterly. And I'm certain you can discuss this with your landlord, and almost every landlord would be happy to receive money in advance. If it's things like your subscriptions, you can also pay those in advance. Well, we cannot pay salaries in advance, but we can put the money aside so that we are covered for the months when we do not make as much. So that on those months when you make little money, you'll then now be dealing with the day-to-day expenses that you could not pay for in advance. So that is how you take care of seasonal income to make sure you're covered even on the dry months. Then you spoke of irregular income. Irregular income, I want to look at it as that income that you did not anticipate. Remember I said when you're planning, you look at your past records and you see the income you made. So then from there, you have an idea. I usually, let's just take a number, maybe I usually make about 1 million a month. However, something can happen. For instance, maybe you're in the restaurant industry, and on that month, the county government decides to hold that conference of governors or something. I think that, and then so you end up with an influx of people that you had not anticipated for, and hence you end up making more than you had planned for. For instance, you can make just an extra 500,000 with that unexpected visit. So that income, instead of, for most of us, just thinking, oh wow, this was such a good month, perhaps I can splurge. Remember, in our budget, we had those items of our long-term financial goals. Those things that we intend to do for our business to grow. This now would be a good amount of money to put in that fund. For instance, maybe you intend to buy an equipment. Maybe you need some to automate a system. I mean, a process. You need to automate a process. Maybe you're intending to open a new branch in a different town, different county. Now, this would be good money to put aside for when you're ready to do that. And remember, for every money we put aside, it's always uh, wise to put it in something that will earn you a little interest as well. Yes.
And interest. I'm also writing for myself.
Oh, that's good. Yes, we are all learning.
Yeah, we are all learning. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Let's talk about expense tracking. You
Mm.
know how small businesses operate.
Uh,
Eva
yes.
has paid me. I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be attending a cocktail somewhere. I
Mm-hmm.
think I should, since she's just sent it, I need to just attend the cocktail. I'll pass by the bank tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So, how can small businesses identify and reduce unnecessary spending to improve their financial health?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. And that is a big, big headache problem for most small businesses. And I will explain why. Because for most of us small business owners, we do not separate our personal spending and the business spending. As much as legally, maybe I'm running a business under a business name, as much as legally I am not, one is not a legal entity from the other, you need to do so. for the sake of tracking your expenses, because otherwise you will end up mixing your money. Using that example, that you've just given, there is always something happening. So, and I always say, money in the bank, it's like it calls you, come and spend me, come and spend me. So, we need to. So, how do you track your expenses? Number one, you have to have the plan, budgeting. You have to have a budget. You have to put down the things you intend to spend on this month. And I'm working with a month for the sake of this conversation. You have
Okay.
to put down, my business I will need to buy this number of, these packets of sugar for my business, for instance. I will need to
Mhm.
buy this, I'll need to buy this. You list that down for yourself, especially for small businesses. Then you need to put money aside for Eva, not the business, money aside for Eva. And that money aside for Eva is what Eva now will use to attend her cocktails. And if Eva, I assigned myself, depending on how my business is doing, if I assigned myself 20,000 for the month, then that's all I get from the business. So it's up to me also. Remember, you can also keep a personal budget outside. In fact, you should keep a personal budget outside your business. Then for the business, I said we have the non-variable expenses, so those will not change. The variable expenses, remember I mentioned the importance of monitoring. Just because you budget on the first day of the month, you have to revisit that budget on the fifth day, on the 10th day, on the 15th day, just to track how things are going. So he had said I would buy 5 sacks of potatoes. And then I discover by week 3, I've already bought 6. Then I need to find out, why did I buy 6? The sixth one that I have bought, how have we utilized it? Has it brought us extra income? Then this income that it has brought us, now I need to budget it. Maybe I add it into my stock line where I was to buy stock, because now I have extra income. If I find maybe I spent the money on something I shouldn't have, maybe for instance, there was an SME gala, and I felt I'm an SME, and my business needs to be presented there.
Huh?
Then you
Yeah.
have to figure out which funds are you going to move to cover that move. So a
Mm.
budget is, you have to monitor it to make sure it sticks to the lines you put. And when it doesn't, then we move things around, we cut some back, we increase others where necessary. But the key in all this, always prioritize your spending to income generating activities, because that's why you're in business. So don't move money around to cover 3 SME galas, a master class you spoke, unless the master class contributes directly to your business.
That's a very hard pill to swallow, but let us swallow it nevertheless.
Yes,
You mentioned something as regards the savings.
yes,
So probably using the examples are very good because they're very real. I like the way you're using them.
thank you.
So how should small businesses prioritize savings in their budget to ensure long-term stability? Put in mind the entrepreneur who's just started, they're like 3 months old.
Mhm,
There's the other one who, as your I'd give the example of has been getting who gets big orders suddenly, so they sort of have some income. They're not anticipated. You have gone into the market and people have said, "This is the service. This is the product we need," and then you're all over the place. And of course, giving the example of the business that's now growing, maturing in a way. So that way we have covered those who are just starting, those who
Yes.
have you've just unwookied, the way you have said there was a convention somewhere and people have said, oh my
Mhm.
God, we need to get the catering services from Kathy. She's the best.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. For small businesses, especially the one that's just starting, putting aside savings may not be the easiest thing because it's a business, and when you start a business, the expenses are many. So I like to look at savings for a business as putting aside money that will help in that business in the future to scale. Because that's at the end of the day, when your business scales or grows, then it means more income, which then means you can have income to save for luxury, for instance. So for a small business, like you have said, that just started 3 months ago, it's important to put that line of saving, or however you want to call it, because you intend to grow the business. And of course, at that point, the plans, you had many. Sometimes when we start a business, we realize if I wait to start at the scale I wanted, I may never start. So sometimes you start small, intending to grow organically. So this would be a good thing to save towards. So at the beginning, when you've just started the business, make sure you put aside some money to achieve that plan that you have. I was intending to open 3 shops, but I only opened one. So now every month I'll be putting aside 5,000, 10,000, or however much I can afford towards opening shop number 2. So that's how I'd look at saving at that point. As we move to that example you gave of someone who gets a windfall, you are not expecting, and this can also happen to a business that just opened. You may open thinking people don't need your service. For instance, like me, who is a consultant, I may, and then suddenly I do one consultation who tells 10 people who love me and they all call me. Then now I get a windfall for the next 6 months, something I did not anticipate because maybe with my planning, I thought I would be doing 2 consultations a month. Now I find myself with 6. In that kind of money as well, this is now the money I was saying, put aside, and put it aside to a place that will earn you some money for your future growth. Maybe, for instance, a service business like myself, who is a consultant, my future dream would be to bring on 3 other consultants in different fields so that we can be able to perhaps maybe serve a business wholesome. So then I put aside that money towards that. But in all this, remember, you're putting money aside regardless of how small it may be. A saving is important. And as I said, for a business, your goal is to grow the business, is to get the business to the next level. But of course, you're going to ask me, what about that person who has grown their business?
Yeah.
Would they feel, I have been here, I've been toiling, making the money, I've been able to meet my budget? Yes, you a business as it grows, it can also start saving for luxury. For instance, you can decide we are going to buy the director a car this month, and you can save towards that. Why not? You can decide we're going to buy the owner a house this time, then you start saving towards that. But always keeping in mind, as I said, we prioritize our income towards income generating activity.
Activities.
And for a business that has reached that maturity age, then maintaining where we are.
Oh, thank you for that. Now we come to what the business owner fears: debt management.
Yes.
Debt is bad. I'll never borrow. I don't
Mm-hmm.
auctioneers coming to my house, coming to my business.
Mm-hmm.
I am not moving out from where I am,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So, Kaita
Yeah.
said, how can small businesses use budgeting to manage and reduce debt effortlessly?
Thank you. Thank you. That question makes me smile because I'm a credit expert. And all those things you've said, I have had them, especially small businesses, when they hear debt. And this usually will come from, you saw a business get auctioned, probably that is next to you, and they closed, and you have seen people's houses getting sold. And it's really just, a very scary place. Let me start by saying credit is not bad. In fact, credit is a tool that is very useful for most businesses. However, the trick is in how you use your credit. When you access it, that is also very important. When you access it, how you plan to use it, and of course, most importantly, how you plan to pay. You cannot get into debt if you don't have those three, because then you will end up not in a very good place. Remember, I started by saying money calls us to spend it. And the thing about debt, you receive big lump sums of money into your account. So you can imagine what that means to most people, myself included. So, how does a small business plan for credit? Once again, I cannot overemphasize the importance of having a financial plan in place. As you're planning, then you get to see maybe there are shortfalls. For instance, after I've had my business for 1 year, then I'm thinking this business now, we need to do something different. We were just selling chapatis and tea. I'm now feeling there's a need for us to add mandazis and to add maybe chips. Let's just start serving lunch. And then when I look at the income I'm making at the moment, it may not be able to get me to be able to buy the ingredients for the tea and for the and for the and for the chapatis. And then now that I'm adding potatoes for lunch, and then I'm asking myself, so then does that mean my business will forever stay here? No, that's not why we start a business. Then you go out and do research and see, by adding lunch into my menu, I'll be able to make this much income. So with this much income, then I will be able to cater for the stock of the lunch food. But now at this moment, I don't have that money. So how do I go about it? That's when you access credit. Please note you have a plan. You have a plan in place. You have a plan in place that I'm intending to grow my restaurant to start serving lunch. So then you have done your maths using research, not just thinking from, you can never grow a business seated in your house. You need to visit other businesses, understand how other people are doing it, get to understand the kind of incomes they're getting. Then that way, no, and then you understand the expenses that will go into that. So then after doing this, you realize with 200,000, I can grow this business. And let me start by explaining credit does not have to be large sums of money. Most of us think by the time I go to the bank, I'll be wasting my time there to go and ask them for 200. No, you always ask for the money you need, not a shilling more. And I cannot emphasize on this, especially for businesses. Most businesses will go to the bank, and then bank looks at your books and they see, oh wow, this business is doing so well. Eva only asked for 1 million. Let's give them 1.5. No, you did not need 1.5. You needed 1 million. Remember, the lender is also in business. He is also growing his business. By giving you the extra 500,000, it is to his advantage, not yours. Stick to your plan. So once you've taken your 1 million, now you know how you're going to use it. Because why? You had a plan. And in that plan of yours, you had put that you have now added a new expense, which is a loan repayment. So that's the first thing into accessing credit. Once now you have this credit, and as your business continues, and you may open this restaurant to lunch, and people come more than you anticipated, and you make more money than you anticipated. For a small business, one of the things you should also do, try and reduce your debt. Most lenders will not charge you extra for paying early or for paying lump sums into it. And why am I saying reduce your debt? Because your debt is one of those expenses that are expensive. A debt is not free. If I think around right now, lending rates for most banks are ranging between 16 and 20, depending on how 16% to 20%, depending on your business. And let's not even talk about those mobile lenders and that are even higher than that. So the number one thing, as you start to make a little extra than anticipated, work at reducing your high interest debt. For mature businesses and the ones that they are on their third loan, fourth loan, or whatever, they have a plan as to how they manage their debts in their business. But always, as much as you can, reduce that high interest debt out of your expenses. I hope that answers the question, and I also understand we have some people listening to us. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning. If you have any questions, please just feel free to ask on any topic we've covered. So,
I think that one has hit home. I think especially when you've said when you're added an extra. Normally we get excited and
mhm.
we think the bank has done so well. They've actually recognized me. It's like being given a certificate uh, and being applauded. Out of the 2 million or so accounts they have seen they can add me. So I get excited. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is it.
Yes,
Oh, it's an extra expense
it's an extra expense
to
that
your hands.
you had not planned for it. And now you feel the need to use it. Of course, you use it. Money is like that. Money is to be used. So where are you going to use it? On things you did not plan to.
Thank you. Uh, you had alluded to the long-term financial planning, and you had mentioned a bit on budgeting playing a role in the long-term financial planning and achieving the business growth. Probably you can share some tips for planning for major business milestones, such as expanding operations or purchasing equipment.
Yes, thank you. And I want to start answering that question by saying, in all of this, always understand yourself as well. It's good to know the kind of entrepreneur you are and how you are with money. There are many of us who can put, I'm not sure whether it's many, there are those of us who can put money aside. They make a plan at the beginning of the year and they say, at the end of this year, I want to buy a potato peeler for my business. And it costs 150,000. Maybe that's too much. 150,000. And they put in their budget every month, I will save that's about 13, 14,000, I think, to achieve that target. And they will do it without fail. Then there are those of us who Putting money aside is not the easiest thing, because I'll put money aside January, February, March. Then I'm sitting over there and I'm thinking, I have 45,000 over there. The way I'm looking at this business, by month 6, 7, I'll have made some extra income. So I'll be able to cover for that 30,000 that I have spent now. If you are those people planning your business, credit is also a way to do it for you. You know why? Because once you take a loan, it becomes a static item. I mean, it becomes an item in your expenses that you must meet. So that income. So for instance, you can look for a credit which monthly payment will be the 15,000 that you are supposed to put aside. So then you get your money, buy your potato peeler, the 15,000 you are supposed to put aside, now pay it to the lender. For some of us, we need a reason we need to be given reasons on how we are using our money. If you are that person, then access credit. But remember, once you get the money, use it for what it was supposed to do. And by the way, most lenders, in fact, are more than happy to pay the money directly to the supplier. That way, you don't even get tempted. So you will go and identify your potato peeler in an LG shop, for instance, and then you tell your lender pay the money direct to LG. So you will go pick up your potato peeler, take it to your business, and start increasing the income, because now you can do more trips than you could do before. Then that extra income, direct it to the lender to pay the debt. For things like big financial goals, for instance, businesses, that have been there for a long time, or some that have just maybe for 3 years. One of the goals could be you want to stop paying rent and move into your own premises, for instance. So you can also, that also is a long-term goal, because that is not something you may be able to do when you start, unless, of course, you're very fortunate you had the premises at the beginning. So you also can start putting aside money towards that. And as I said, if you are they're not very good at saving, then put the money to a place you cannot access it. For instance, there's now a lot of investment firms and managers out here with a lot of instruments in which we can save our money. You can put your money in bonds, treasury bills. You can put your money in money market funds, in those kind of places where, once again, the money is not easily reachable. So you can find a financial advisor who advises you. You let them know, I want to have gotten 10 million in 5 years. Then they will advise you where, if you saved this much per month, in 10 years, you'll have gotten this much, then you can be able to meet your goal. So there are many avenues to achieve this, but as I said, always know the kind of a person you are and use what works best for you.
Thank you about that. That was a good response. I think the part where you have mentioned putting the money away where you can't access it. That's a good point. So we come to common pitfalls where we like falling off.
Yes,
So maybe you can share one or two common
yes,
budgeting mistakes small
yes,
businesses make
yeah.
and how this can be avoided.
Yes, I mean, this, when it comes to budgeting, pitfalls are everywhere. And that is how most businesses have eventually given up on budgeting, because they feel every time we put one together, then this happens, we never follow it, we find ourselves in problems, so why bother? The number one, Remember, I said as you're starting your budget, you need to have an idea what kind of income you're working with. So the number one mistake that people make is overestimating your income. Do not overestimate your income, because if you overestimate your income, then that means you will put down more things to do and yet you don't have that income. So be realistic about the income. And I say one of the best ways to do this, use your past performance, because your business, you understand your business, you know what happens, so you have an idea. So don't put I will make 100,000, whereas in the last 6 months you've only made 50,000. It is good to be ambitious, yes, and it is good to plan to grow, but also let's be realistic about it. The second one, uh, another very common one, is again overestimating our expenses. On the other hand, why? Because we want to we want to get the best. We want to be able to buy more. So we list down all these things that we know we may not be able to meet. So also be realistic about your expenses, even though they are expenses directly attributed to your business. Be realistic about them. Don't say you will need to buy 5 sacks of potatoes when you know you only buy four. Even if you anticipate, as I said, remember I said our budget can always be adjusted along the way, especially for a business. So you can adjust if that need be. Another major pitfall, and I said it at the beginning, is most businesses never put aside the emergency fund. So here you are, you have this very nice budget, you have the right income, the right expenses, then something unexpected happens. For instance, in Nairobi now, we've been getting flash floods from nowhere. And this can happen and affect your business. It can come and sweep your stock. Maybe you sell books and your stock gets flooded and you lose all that stock. So you always should anticipate for an emergency and put aside that money. And an emergency fund we build over time. It's not, I say this month I'm putting aside 100 million. You may not even have it, because of course some emergencies may cost more than others. It's a line you put for every time, and you keep building on the emergency fund so that eventually you have enough amount that you can use to cover an emergency. Another thing, of course, is what happens to all of us: impulse spending. Here I am, I have a budget, and then I hear there's small businesses, something at KICC, and they're selling everything in discount. And there's something that happens at KICC where they bring small businesses and they sell things in bulk and discount.
Yeah.
It is a good thing, but if you have not planned for it, then don't go and go crazy. You can't now go and buy 100 sacks of sugar because the price is now 20 shillings lower than it normally. That will obviously affect your business. So that is something else that, a major pitfall. And even on simple things, like I said, most of us business owners do not separate our spending with that of the business. After this, me and you, Kathy, we can decide, oh, we've had such a nice discussion this morning. Let's go for lunch. And then we tell ourselves, why not? Let's go to Kempinski. And then there we are spending 10,000 that you had not planned for. So those things happen to all of us. Of course, remember that is why we have a bit of an emergency fund in our budgeting to cater for some of these things, but not everything that comes your way. And finally, let me mention not monitoring that budget that you made, especially for a business, because then you should be able to see by day 15, we are not on track. What are we going to change? or we are on track, let's keep going.
Not open. Thank you for that particular response. Let's see as we wind down to adapting to changes.
Mm.
You have alluded to that briefly, uh, but now put it in the context of financial changes and all that. So, how should small businesses adjust their budget when faced with unexpected financial changes? Um, I, I think the example we can mention is probably you're taking the credit facility that has changed. Then something else is economic downtowns. Like right now, the way the bank is no, the government is anticipating to increase the fuel levy
Mhm.
right now as we speak,
Mm.
or supply chain disruptions.
Okay. Uh, yes, when you run a business, change is inevitable, and this is
Mm,
just in life. And sometimes things will come that you had not planned for. So the first thing when the changes come is you need to sit down and understand how that change will affect you and how it will affect your budget. If, for instance, it is just an economic downturn that we experienced, especially last year, where you realize now, I will not be able to make the income that I was making. Then one of the things you can do, you can reduce your expense. And one of the ways to reduce your expense, you can reduce your product offerings, for instance,
mm,
because then that way there's no need of attempting to keep your business exactly where it was, and the income it's bringing is reducing by the day. So you can reduce some product items, especially the ones that are very expensive. Once again, I'll use the restaurant business. I think I like food. So if, for instance, maybe you've been serving in the morning breakfast, and in your breakfast, some of the items were pancakes, chapatis, sausages, eggs, perhaps you can reduce some of those items. Also, you can get creative as the economic changes. You can get creative with your business. You can now start offering uh, offers for your breakfast. We all love offers. All of us will enter into a shop because there's a sale. We don't need what is inside that shop, but because there's a sale, we will enter there. So, as a business
mm,
person, also, you can make business combos. You know where you're getting your saving, and then you offer them for less, and more people can come and buy those things. So we get creative about that. Also, uh, this is where now credit comes in. If it is a business, you do not have the luxury of reducing your product offering, or giving offers, then you have to, especially if you already had an existing loan, for instance. And now things have changed, and you realize I will not be able to meet my monthly payments, as it were. Before you default on that loan, and I want to say this very clearly, please visit your lender. Not when you've missed the first payment. When you anticipate, I will miss that payment. You visit your lender and you have a candid conversation with them. I think when economy changes, it changes to all of us, and we all understand. And please, I know most of us think banks are just out to get their money at whatever cost. Your defaulting loan also affects them negatively. So they also do not want you to default. So visit them and you can work out a plan. In the world of lending, we call it restructuring. You can restructure your loan. For instance, if you had taken a loan for 1 year, you can extend it to 3 years, which then means you reduce your monthly payments to something you can afford. So if you're paying 50,000, it will be reduced to 40,000. It gives you a
yes.
bit of a break. You can also ask them, please allow me for the next 6 months to just pay interest on this loan, because I anticipate after 6 months things will improve, and I will have the funds. And in fact, you may be anticipating things will improve in such a way that you will make extra, in which case then you will go and pay that principal that you've not been paying, and in fact, pay a little more to get yourself to where you are. So never fear the lender. Always go to the lender and have a candid discussion, and they will help you plan. As I said, a bad loan is also bad to the bank. And also the headaches that they will give you, you do not need them. I always say, a business person, your job is to concentrate on your business, not to concentrate on other things that do not affect you. Uh, Once again, in this part is also where we talk about seasonal businesses. And seasonal businesses even can access credit, and lenders have become very creative on how they lend. So on that month when things are bad, you can go to a lender, access credit, and let them know, I will pay you after 6 months. And they will put measures into that. For instance, you can just service a little interest for that month when you're not doing so well. And then at the end of the 6 months, you make a balloon payment and finish your loan. So I think here what I'm trying to say, for most businesses, as you're planning and as changes come, engage professionals that can help you.
Engage profession. All right. Thank you very much, Eva. Thank you, Eva, for that insightful conversation. And thank you all for your presence, especially Eric Obwaka, who has followed us through and through. He has some comments. He said, at least today you created humor by saying, the money is calling, come and spend me. And that's how money calls me daily.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of this week's Founders Conversation, powered by SME Founders Association, where we connect entrepreneurs and professionals to money, markets, and mentors. Joining us is easy. Simply visit our website and become a partner for just 5,000 shillings, unlocking access to valuable learning and networking opportunities. So I've been your host, Catherine Karaoke. Until next Thursday for more insights and strategies on managing your finances. Thank you so much.